said it, but sometimes I'm not following up my notes close enough. Back to the point though, is quality density matters, and you know yourself that UNAMSL eventually got to about 19,000 troops, and so and the Republic of Sierra Leone's armed forces were actively formed, not under the UN but under IMAT, and it's that piece, I believe anyway, and I'm not the expert because I haven't served in that mission, that certainly helped them, you know, bring the country under control. So using that same formula, if you look at the Congo, and I use the Congo as an example only because it's out there and it's certainly topical, not because there's any active efforts. You know, I don't stand in my broom closet and with no, much as I like to. I'm more advanced than that. I have a computer to do it with. Anyway, just to say that I hear you, 200,000 troops, but it's not 200,000 UN troops. This is what I'm trying to say. It's a combination of security forces, internationals, army, police, and in an environment that you see in Ituri or in either one of the Kivus, that's what that combination has to be. And you would know yourself that under Major General Kameret, they energized what was going on in the East for the brief period that he was in command, which speaks to my second point about quality leadership, and actually moved the yardsticks a fair bit. But I don't think we've really got our heads around professionalizing the Congolese military to the point where, yeah, we put them through centre de brassage, and then we shove them out the door and stick them in the field, but there's no suivi, you know, there's nobody like we do in Afghanistan that stays with them 24/7 and actually fights alongside them. You need that. It's dangerous. It has to happen. Well, we'll see. That's not my business. So, but thank you.
Merci. J'aurais préféré poser une question finalement. Disons que je pense que Jocelyn Coulon a bien présenté l'évolution du maintien de la paix dans une perspective canadienne. Là où je ne suis plus au gouvernement, c'est lorsqu'on parle d'opération de paix en Afghanistan. Ce n'est pas une opération de paix, nous faisons une guerre qui, malgré toutes les capacités de l'OTAN, souvent est apparue comme une guerre de plusieurs pays de l'OTAN menant leur petite guerre en Afghanistan. Donc la coordination extraordinaire de l'OTAN n'a pas joué. Mais ça, pour moi, ça ne fait pas partie du domaine du maintien de la paix. Et j'aurais osé le dire au ministre que lorsque je vois opération de paix et que je vois les opérations en Afghanistan, ça ne tombe pas dans cette catégorie-là. Je pense que ça déborde largement le débat qu'on a eu hier, excellent débat sur les forces robustes, qui sont à la limite de ce qu'on peut imaginer. C'est donc dire donner la capacité de combat à une force limitée, une force des Nations Unies dans une zone où les tensions sont très grandes. Et peut-être qu'un jour le Canada retournera au maintien de la paix, et moi je pense que c'est lié au changement d'attitude des États-Unis. Je me suis peut-être mal formulé ma remarque hier, mais lorsque les États-Unis retrouveront, comme l'administration Obama semble le faire, retrouveront un intérêt à utiliser le maintien de la paix comme un outil de politique étrangère, à ce moment-là, le Canada trouvera son intérêt. On Paul, I think your comments, I could have never made comments like that because I was just number two. I provided a piece of paper and punctuation, but I never had the overall view of all those little pieces. But you're right, we were, for the past 50 years, an emerging and then a real multilateral power. This has been overlooked. Canadians didn't know that. We had a diplomacy that was really powerful. Remember in New York, you're sitting there, we have 114 missions in the world reporting on any events and good links. So we could broker a deal, we could do a lot of work, and we did quite a bit of work which is absolutely invisible. You know, when we talk about the Brahimi report, before the Brahimi report was written, we dumped on Brahimi's team desk a pile of paper which represented all the Canadian studies on peacekeeping in a number of issues. relating to rapid deployment, cooperation, regional cooperation, and other things. And then in the implementation, we use a useless piece of machinery, which is called a C-34. So that's why you have to be careful about useless pieces of machinery in the UN, because at times they come handy. And we did the fight in the C-34 to have the recommendations, a good proportion of recommendations, about 65% of them adopted by the C-34. That was done not only because it was a C-34, because we deployed all the resources we had to make this happen. So what we see now is we see a withdrawal from the UN, so we've abandoned some incredible tools, you know. We had a very powerful voice in the UN. Paul Anbecker set the Security Council. He could attest that we were making a contribution, which was well beyond the size of a country like Canada. We could actually address any of the issues rising in the Council because we had the capacity to do it. It's a matter, as the General said, of quality and density.
Yeah.
We had both. You know, I was the manager of the staff to assist Paul in his important duties at the UN. At one point, we had 24 diplomats, full-time on UN issues. Not only did we do the Security Council, we chaired the Special Committee on Peacekeeping, and we did all the rest in each of the committees. It makes a difference now. What I've seen detected in the change of policies that we're losing sometimes. And I wonder if we could table the same program we tabled in 97, 98 when we campaigned and said that we were going to do things we did, and a number of the so-called generic resolution in the UN originate in Canadian thinking and Canadian work. So that would be my modest contribution. Thank you.
Thanks. One question for Ambassador Heimbecker, which is that for the first time since you represented Canada on the Security Council, there is a possibility that Canada will again be on the Security Council, and I would be interested in hearing your thoughts as to, if elected, what Canada would like to see, what you think Canada should try to push in the Council. Brigadier General, you had mentioned private security and invited a response or a question on that. Private security in Afghanistan is an issue that I've looked at, and I won't dispute the fact that it's necessary, but I think we've also seen, as we were talking last night, and there have been instances where poorly overseen private security companies, particularly local security companies, or militia groups, have had an adverse effect on stability in Afghanistan. And I'd be interested in hearing your thoughts on how we can improve good behavior, improve accountability when there is a lack of good behavior, and ultimately transition away from reliance on private security companies. And finally, just to respond on your point about the UN training national militias, I would be very wary of seeing the UN move into that space, because I'm not convinced that even in the area of police training, which is one where the UN has been much more actively involved over a much longer period of time, that we're seeing the kind of success that we want to see, let alone to expand into yet another security sector. Thanks.
Oh.
Talk. It says talk. Therefore, I will talk. The election comes up in the fall, and the question is whether we're going to get elected or not. And we've done pretty much everything we could do to make it harder to vote for us. I remember when we ran our campaign in 98, 99, 97, 98,